I wanted to show you at the beginning a picture that my colleague in the Max Planck, Rainey Daston, showed. There's sorry, let me turn this on. There's a restaurant in California called Norm's. Norm is a name, Norm, and so Norm is a name common in America. And especially I wanted to show you it's Norm's, and then this says, you can't see it very well, but it says, "We never close." Okay, so here we are, Norm's, we never close. Okay. So I have a proposal, a thesis that I want to argue for today, and that is that human normative thinking and attitudes represent psychological adaptations for aligning, coordinating, and negotiating one's actions, thoughts, and attitudes with others within shared agencies. Now, shared agency may not be a term you're familiar with, but I am explicitly avoiding the word cooperation because it has so many different meanings, and even collaboration has a lot of different meanings. And so by shared agency, I mean humans cooperating with one another, collaborating with one another with a special psychology, not just any cooperation. So my animal friends are always on my case about humans are not the only ones who cooperate. Yes, there's lots of cooperation in the animal world, but humans have a special version of it that I'm going to try to argue for today. And this means both joint agencies with cooperative partners, that's between individuals, and collective agencies within social groups, which have social norms across the whole group, for example. And because the philosophers who study normativity are always so obsessed with reasons, I want to say that providing or justifying or providing reasons for one's thoughts and actions represents a special instance of such coordination and negotiation. So I provide reasons when there's some issue between myself and someone else. And these are the citations for these ideas are coming out. What I'm talking about today comes from 3 different sources. This is a 2016 book, a 2020 paper, and a recent book chapter that I co-authored with my philosophical friend, Ivan Gonzalez Cabrera. Okay, so I want to start with the idea that the kind of collaboration that I'm talking about that constitutes a shared agency, its central feature from an evolutionary point of view is interdependence. So since Darwin, evolutionary people have worried about cooperation. That is, if evolution is about making sure your genes gets passed on and you eat and you survive, then he was very worried about the ants and the bees and how cooperative they were, and they shouldn't be that cooperative because it's not in the individual's interest to sacrifice for others. So the solution in the ants and the bees is kin selection. So you're closely related to everyone in your hive or your anthill. They're all like siblings, and so it's in your genetic interest to collaborate. But there's another situation where also cooperation can work, and that is interdependence, mutualism. We are working together. I cannot obtain the resource on my own, but with you, I can. And so we work together, and we're interdependent because if either one of us quits, nobody gets anything. So the key evolutionary concept is mutualism or interdependence. You may have heard the term what's the not parasitism, but the where one organism depends on the other. The mutualism, basically. Symbiotic, thank you. And that biologists use the word symbiotic for 2 different species usually, but I'm thinking symbiotic among individuals in the group. So one fails, we all fail, right? That kind of thing. And the idea I found is captured actually by David Hume a few centuries ago, where he says, "Were the human species so framed by nature as that each individual possessed within himself every faculty requisite for both his own preservation and the propagation of his kind, it seems evident that so solitary a being would be as much incapable of justice as of social discourse and conversation. So if everybody is an independent module pursuing their own individual interests, why would normativity or fairness or justice, why would any of that arise at all? It arises because we're together and we're doing things together and we depend on one another. And therefore, we have to come up with some kind of norms that govern these collaborative activities. And my proposal would be, and I understand that I see we're going to have a conference on animal normativity coming here. I tend to be more human-centered, although I study apes, and I tend to draw a distinction between what humans do and what apes do. Nevertheless, I do want to say that non-human primates live in groups with some general interdependence, and certainly in the kinds of coalitions and alliances that Filippo studies, we're in a coalition in some kind of antagonistic interaction. I'm depending on you and you're depending on me to fight. But my argument is that humans evolved to collaborate in shared agencies with very strong interdependence and toward a shared goal of the moment, like foraging, where we're producing mutual benefits and we depend on one another to do it. And we have a common ground knowledge that we're interdependent. So this is something that I have thought about studies, but we've never actually done one. Let's say chimpanzees. Okay, I know I depend on him. I know I can't do it by myself. Do I know that he depends on me? Do I know, do I have leverage that he depends on me and therefore I could hold, up the ante here and make sure that he respects me because he has to know that he depends on me as much as I depend on him. And of course, respect is one of the attitudes or emotions that holds things together in human collaboration, human shared agencies. So in any case, I do believe humans have a special version of it, and it's not that the apes don't have any interdependence, they do. And so there is the possibility of some kind of normativity there. And I also wanted to emphasize before moving on from these general theoretical points that also critical to the evolution of human collaboration in shared agencies is the notion of partner choice. So that is to say that even when we are mutualistically collaborating, there's still a temptation for each of us to free ride a little bit and let the other guy do all the work and we share the benefit. This is, again, one of the things that undermines cooperation in the evolutionary world is the tendency to free ride or to cheat. But the proposal is that in human evolution, we had to forage together to survive. And if you cheated, like you took all the food at the end, or you were lazy and let me do all the work and then you shared, I didn't choose you as a partner anymore in the future. So you were socially selected out. All right. And you could no longer participate. And if we're at a point in human evolution where there's communication, I go back to the group and I tell everybody that you're a bad cooperator. And so nobody will cooperate with you. So you can't share in the benefits of the cooperative activity. So we are genetically selected to cooperate, but it's social selection. It's selection from people choosing you as a partner. Darwin talks about sexual selection as the first case of social selection, that you can't pass on your genes if you don't have a partner, sexual partner who will cooperate. But this is a special case of that. This is a case where you need a partner to collaborate. Okay, so I'm going to focus on human children because I think that's where we see it. And some of this issue, the issue of non-linguistic normativity, I take it for granted that that language is a special case, but it's not the be all and end all. And I will, but it does turn out that normative thinking and attitudes and concepts emerge in young children at around 3 years of age. I've called it the normative turn, and they have been linguistic for a while. So that age is not diagnostic for it being non-linguistic, but I'll try to show that that it's not dependent on language, the kind of joint commitments that you make that hold them together. Okay, so this is an 18-month-old child, and this is not going to be normativity. This is going to be a kind of a precursor. So here they're collaborating, and what's going to happen is that the adult is going to stop collaborating. So we want to see what the child does when it's a little game that yeah, I don't need it. Now, in just a second, he teases him. Okay, he teases him. and then does the real thing. And now the experiment is programmed to go static, go still for 15 seconds. And you're going to see he wants him back in there. Okay. His hand is stuck at the moment. He has to extricate his hand. And then he comes and gets him and say, play your part, do your part. Okay. Now, if I was generous, I could gloss that as you should be there, right? Your part in this is you should be there. I think that would be a slight over attribution, as you're going to see more convincing things in a moment. But this is a precursor, right? We're collaborating. You're not doing what I expect you to do. By the word expect, I think it's the same in Italian as in English. The word expect has both a statistical, I expect it to rain today, but also I expect you to blah, blah, blah has a normative quality. So it's already ambiguous when I say the child expects, I expect you to play your part. It's already ambiguous. But let's just say it's the statistical meaning. And now here you'll see a chimp. This is one raised by humans. Her mom wouldn't take care of her. And they're going to be collaborating. It's a different task because it doesn't matter. But basically, the chimp has to pull up this piece of plastic, and then the human reaches for it. And you're going to see the human's going to stop interacting, and you'll see the chimp. Her name is Annette, the chimp, and you'll see. Stop. Okay. Stop. Another 15 seconds. Stop. Okay, so they actually do succeed, but if you notice the communication, we talked before when we were just talking right informally about communication, and there's no attempt to communicate to the other one, I want you to do your thing, right? You've stopped and I'm not happy and I want you to do it. It's just like, I'm doing this. Oh, good. If you're doing it too, that's great. If you're not doing it, then I'm doing something else, right? Whereas with the humans, it's like, wait a minute, we were doing this together. That's the whole logic of what I want to tell you today. All right, so here's an example where we actually, I think we do get something that's in the direction of normative attitudes, and it's going to be implicit. We've called it implicit joint commitments. So a joint commitment, as outlined by Margaret Gilbert in some of her famous papers, her famous paper is Taking a Walk Together. That's one of her early famous papers. I say, let's go get a cup of coffee. You say, okay. We start to go get a cup of coffee, and I just turn around and walk the other way. It's like, okay, it's not just that something weird is happening. It's like something wrong is happening. You said we were going to go get a cup of coffee. What's wrong here? Right. So that's an explicit joint commitment where in language we say, why don't we do it? Okay. But an implicit one is you and I are going to, let's say we're moving stuff from one room to another and we're just moving back and forth. And I grab one end of a table. You look me in the eye. You grab the other end of the table. Okay, now we're starting to walk through. Okay, now we've made an implicit commitment that we're going to do this together. So in that case, we're carrying. I can't just drop the table and walk off, right? That's like, what are you doing? You know? Okay, again, because we were interdependent. We expect we're depending on one another. We know that, and so there's an implicit joint commitment. I would say there. So these children are collaborating on a task where each of them has her own reward in each side. So, wow, this is really pitiful. Each of them has their own reward right here and right here. It's a stick they pull up. You're going to see how it works. And the trick is we rig it so that one child gets her reward first. So the social ontologist Tomasello talks about this, that in a joint commitment, we are committed to both of us following through until everybody gets their reward. So what we're going to do is we're going to rig it so one of them gets their reward first. They're collaborating, but the one on the left. Now she gets her reward. She gets her reward. But the other one hasn't got hers. The reward is a token that you have to take somewhere to cash in. You're going to see that at the end. She diagnoses the problem. And now the other one gets hers. Okay. And now they both catch it. Okay. So she's waiting. And I had a philosopher friend in Pittsburgh, Michael Thompson, who saw this video and said, it's not that the girl is being nice, it's that it's not over. Okay. The collaboration is not over. We haven't reached the goal yet. The goal is that we both extract our thing here. And now, any of you who know anything about chimps, and anything I say about chimps, Filippo, I expect you to object if you don't like it. But anybody who knows anything things about chimps knows we have the same thing with chimps. They're pulling together. It's a slightly different. They're pulling together, and one of them gets their token. Boom. Okay. Whoa, food. Boom. Forget about the other guy. So our interpretation is that the chimps know, and you're going to see it in a moment, where the chimps collaborating. They know they need the partner. They know they need the partner, and they are kind of working together. But once I've got my thing out of it, that's the end of it, right? So you're a social tool for me, and I know you're a tool, and I know I need you. It's not clear to me if they know that he needs me. So as I said before, but in any case, when the chimps do the same thing, they take the token and they just take off and they don't continue through. So we think the children have an implicit joint commitment to do this together, because once we start collaborating, it kind of arises out of the collaboration that we're doing this together. Like the example I gave of carrying the table together, they've started a collaboration together. They know, all right. And so now we get a more explicit one. So this, and then now we're going to get normative language. So now they have to pull in together, and you're going to see this, a version of this apparatus several times. They have to pull in together. The rope is looped through, and if you pull the rope yourself, it comes out. So you can't do it by yourself. The other guy, you have to have a guy on the other end pulling. And this girl on the left has she believes they both know how to do this game. And they get their reward out of the middle and they feed it to the little elephant in the back. But we psychologists are perverse creatures, and we taught the girl on the other side to do something different. So she's not going to behave as she ought to behave. And you're going to hear this little girl. First, she just tells her what to do. Maybe we could turn it up just a hand. Man muss. Sorry, I'm still feeling that. She's going to say man muss in German, one must. It sounds a little stilted in English, but in German, man muss is quite common. Man muss an Seil ziehen. Man must on the rope pull.
Man muss am Seil ziehen. Man muss am Seil ziehen.
Wieso? Like this. That's a normative thing. Like this. Okay. So the normative part, and I have to tell you that most psychologists do not study normativity or think about it or really even recognize it, actually. So when I talk to psychologists, I have to stress this little girl is not saying, I don't like this. She's not saying, I want you to do something else. She's saying, you must do this. And she could just as well say, you ought to do this, or this is how it's done. This is how you do, this is how one does it, right? So this shift, and my sort of image is that when we have formed a joint commitment, and these little girls, sorry, I forgot to say when I said explicit, these little girls have said ahead of time, we sort of orchestrated, okay, we want you guys to do it together, okay? Okay, they say, and we even have them do a high five like this. So they agree ahead of time they're going to do it together. And then this little girl doesn't do what she's supposed to do. And so the normative language I view as kind of like, we've made this agreement and it kind of hovers over our head like a cloud. This is the agreement. Okay. And now when you've broken it, I don't just say, I don't like what you did as a person. I say, wait a minute, you should be doing this. This is in the agreement that's covering us. All right. So we go around with this little agreement sitting over our head, and the agreement is a piece of shared intentionality. It's a piece of it's a social fact. It's a social object. It's something we created together by our agreement. And so the normative language is a way of regulating that. So Margaret Gilbert says, when we form a joint commitment, part of forming the joint commitment is that I entitle you to call me out if I don't play my part, and you entitle me to call you out if you don't do your part. So we're doing something that's already part of the joint commitment when we're calling somebody else out. Now, I told you we get to the chimps collaborating here, and they're going to do quite nicely here. So This is collaborating to get some food. Unfortunately, almost all of our experiments, they have to get food because otherwise they're not motivated. But in any case, they're going to get some food and you're going to see this quite nice collaboration. And I should say that this.
So what will the chimpanzee?
This film was part of a thing for a TV thing. And so it's actually 2 experiments in one. And the first experiment is not the one I'm interested in here, but it's does she really know she needs a partner and will she do something active? And that was Alicia Malis's study 1. And so you're going to see her do that. But then the second part is going to be about sharing the food at the end. And that's what I want to show you. Idiot.
So what will the chimpanzee do?
So this female chimp is the dominant.
He realized he can't do it on his own and removes the peg to release the other chimp.
The partner, but
They pull the rope together.
actively get a problem.
In this situation, the chimpanzees help each other.
Okay, beautiful. Okay. One little trick here is the food is already separated. Okay, so they don't have to worry about fighting up the food at the end. So you'll see now what happens when we put the food in the middle.
Will the 2 chimps still help each other as humans would?
And you'll see the one closest to us already knows that the other one's dominant.
That's the plank in. But the dominant chimpanzee grabs all the food.
Okay, so you can imagine what happens on the next trial. The next trial, it's over, right? They can't keep cooperating. What's in it for me, says the subordinate. And this is absolutely normal behavior because chimpanzees, like many animals in the animal kingdom, are evolved to resolve disputes over food by dominance. It's a common mechanism. So that's what they do. They resolve it by dominance. And that's very common, but it's not common with these guys, with this species. This species, a 3-year-old version of this species, you're going to see. And they're doing the same thing. The food is in the middle. It's 4 gummy bears in the middle. Okay. And the one, oh, sorry, this is the girls. It's not the boys. Anyway, you're going to see what happens when they pull a little bit too hard and the food comes out on the floor. And one of the girls takes too much. And she protests and the other girl leaves it. So in this setup, they divide it 2 to 2 almost every time. And I was mentioning it came off on the floor because I think the little girl thought when it came off on the floors, all bets were off. Anyway, she took 3 and the other one took 1 and said, no, and she gives it back. So they have a mechanism. They have a natural tendency to share fairly, and they have a mechanism for resolving that. And that is normative protest. In this particular example, she didn't say anything normative. She just said, I only got 1. But I think it's really telling that she doesn't even have to say anything normative. When I say I only got 1, there implies there's something wrong with that, right? What, you only got 1. Oh, so what? I got 3. Well, that's not fair is implicit behind it, even though she doesn't actually say that. Again, the mechanism for resolution is somehow drawing the other one's attention to the fact that we're not coming out equally here, and we're not. This is not right. Sorry, I wanted to say that this as well, that they don't do this if there's no collaboration, but I think I'll show you that here. So in this one is a little bit different. So they're collaborating to pull in the food. And this is not food, this is marbles, and they get to cash the marbles in. Again, they're tokens. And all right, so they're collaborating. Okay, everything's fine. And then you're going to see what happens when they pull in. You see what happens to the marbles. Watch the marbles in the middle. Whoops, 3 to one side, 1 to the other side. He hands him 1 to equalize, so he actually gives up the token. And now they collaborate. Now they cash in. So what I wanted to, these are basically the best data I ever got in my life. So in that condition where they pull in together, it's something like 87% of the time, one of them gives 1 to the other. And it's not just being nice. And some other people did a follow-up on this to show that if it's being nice, I'd give him all of them. But I don't give him all of them. I give him exactly one to make it 2 to 2, because then it's fair. And then it's 3-year-olds are not very good quantitatively, obviously, but 2 to 2, they know. They can tell that that's fair. Now, what I wanted to say before about it's not if there's no collaboration. They walk into the room and there's already 3 on one side and 1 on the other. They share 11% of the time, almost never. So if they come in, oh, I got 3, you only got 1. Okay. And then they just play. They don't feel the need to share. So actually the title of this paper is something like collaboration facilitates equal sharing in children. Sorry, but not chimpanzees. Sorry, I didn't have the chimps in here. So we had a chimp version as well. And the chimps don't share that freely, so we had to modify it a little bit. But it happened that they both pulled, and one of them got 2, and the other one got 1, and there was 1 in the middle that the guy who got 2 could protect or could leave it alone. But the manipulation was, did it matter that they pulled together or if they were already there? And it didn't matter. And we have another study on free riding where the chimps don't care if you contributed or not. You get the same amount as whether you cooperated or not. So the short story is, the summarize is that children are fair in the distribution of resources when they have produced those resources through collaboration. They're fair to all who help produce it. And if you didn't help produce it, then you're not in. So the kids in the free riding study, when other kids came in and who had not collaborated, they didn't want to share with them. They want to share with collaborative partners. And this is going to scale up, by the way, to the level of culture. This is going to scale up to in-group, out-group. In-group are people who we feel like help to produce the resources here in our culture. This is our culture and we produce them and whatever. Who are these guys? They're coming in and they're going to take all this food that we spent years growing or resources that we spent years fixing or whatever. So it already starts here that the sense of fairness applies to those who put in the work with me and collaborated with me. And the sense of fairness does not necessarily, I might give other people stuff just because I'm nice, I'm compassionate, but it's not a sense of fairness that I have to give it to the other people if they didn't collaborate. When I myself break a joint commitment, all right, this is, I think, an interesting flip side of this. And this actually, this came about as an observation, a cultural difference between Americans and Germans. In my German gym workout place, we're working out, people would, from the locker room, so you'd be in your locker room, you take your shower and whatever, and somebody that I had never spoken to, I didn't have any interaction with them, and they're leaving the locker room and they take leave. They say, Auf Wiedersehen, tschüss, right? In America, if you hadn't had any interaction with them, you wouldn't take leave like that. At least in my experience at a gym, dumb, unsocial guys would never do that, right? And so it occurred to me that they had some kind of feeling we're in this together somehow, and therefore I need to take leave from you. And the taking leave, which is something that you do every day that you don't notice, is if you're talking to somebody and you're having a conversation and you have to say, okay, sorry, I got to go pick up my kid now, or okay, you have to tell them why. You can't just turn around and walk off with no excuse. You have to make a reason. You have to give a reason so that you're taking leave. So now this is a 3-year-old child, and just watch the bottom row here. So she has agreed with this adult to play this stamping game. So we agree, let's play the stamping game. Okay. So we've agreed to play the stamping game. And now we're going to tempt her away with something to break the joint commitment. See what she does.
Oh, Cagliari. Oh, jawohl, fertig.
This other one is tempting her away.
Okay. Oh,
Ich kann nicht mehr mit dir spielen mit dir, wo der weiß.
Okay, we're not studying politeness. Okay, not exactly polite, but nevertheless, what we found was, and this is the other part, if they've made a joint commitment, the kids tend to make an excuse before they leave. If there's no joint commitment, and by that, the child is playing with this game, and the adult just comes up and kind of plays beside her. Now she doesn't feel the need to take leave. Okay, I noticed this in myself one time when I walked to somebody I didn't really know, and we're walking to a lecture together, and and we talk a little bit, and then we sit down together in the lecture, and then I'm going to leave before the next one. And I can't decide, do I have to say, okay, see, you know, because I don't even know this person, but we walked in together, talking together, and I felt kind of like, I said, okay, you know, got to leave now. So I have to take leave because we came together, and so it's kind of, we're together. And so the point is that once you've got even an implicit joint commitment, if you're going to break it, you have to acknowledge to them, I recognize the commitment. I want you to continue to perceive me as a cooperative person in general. I respect you enough to let you know in case it affects your planning or whatever. Maybe you were only here at the lecture because I was here and you're going to leave now, whatever. All right. So again, making an apologies is after the fact when there's nothing you can do about it. And now you've made a breach and now you have to apologize to try to say, oh, I know that was a breach. I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. I won't do it again. So we have these mechanisms for keeping the collaborative, I'm going to call it a cooperative identity before it's all over. And we don't catch kids making explicit joint commitments very often. They do say things like, let's go play this and okay. But this is one where we have them where you pull to one side and one kid gets a reward and the other one gets nothing. And then you pull to the other side and the other kid gets a reward and the other one gets nothing. So the solution is to take turns back and forth. But who goes first? Okay. And so you're going to see these little kids in German. The word for here is here. And so when they say here, they mean pull to my side, here. And then you're going to see them come up in the end with a joint commitment. So I actually believe that in evolution, this kind of thing, and in fact, people talk about commitment for collaboration, it's that you bind yourself to this behavior in the future. It's a promise, but I call it a commitment because it's not public, but you bind yourself to a future behavior in this agreement. Is what, and we were talking over lunch in the law, is some things that I've heard, that a contract is a chosen obligation. This is a chosen obligation. I'm choosing to obligate myself on the next turn to pull it to your side. And just now to the issue of non-linguistic, I don't know if everyone knows what a stag hunt is, but a stag hunt is my model for the evolution of cooperation. It was originally Descartes, and it's now part of game theory, where we can gain small rewards by ourselves, but then a big reward comes and we have to collaborate to get the big reward. So I have to risk leaving the small reward in order to take the chance to go get the big reward cooperating with you and hope it works out. And so basically, when the big reward comes, these guys, they're looking at one another through this kind of binoculars. And when the big reward comes, we had an adult and a child, we wouldn't allow them to talk. And all they have to do is go, okay, and that's enough. Okay, I'm realizing this experiment, I'm not describing it very well. So let me just think of a situation where you and I know that if some big thing comes along, we can benefit from it. And I see it, and for some reason we can't talk. All I have to do is go, okay, that excitement, the big reward has come. So now we can go for it. That's based on the common ground assumption that we both are going to want to go for it if we know it's there. And I'm excitedly displaying to you, it's here now, it's here now. Right? And I don't need language to do that. I can do that with, we did it with a gaze. And this is normative because even though the joint commitment was made this non-linguistic way, the child still criticizes the adult normatively if the adult doesn't do it. So we kind of look at one another like this, oh yeah, right. And now the child goes and the adult's not coming and they say, you have to do it, you have to come, you have to do it, right? Why? So they think of that as already a joint commitment, even though it's not verbal. So in this individual joint intentionality, joint agency, it's kind of, again, I'm in my kind of cloud metaphor here, we make a joint commitment to role ideals, meaning the ideal way to do something. Already the word ideal implies a norm. We have made a joint commitment to each of us playing our roles in the ideal way. And we self-regulated, and I put legitimately self-regulated because I recognize that if I don't play my part and you call me out, I don't say, nah. I say, oh, you're right, you're right, you're right. I should have done this. I should have done that. Right. So, I think of the normative attitudes and calling out normative protest as being sort of self-regulating the joint agency. We have the right to protest one another's failings and we entitle the partner to protest our failings. And if we do fail after the fact, we feel guilty. We feel guilty that we didn't do our part and that we harmed the other person. Okay, and if I refuse to cooperate, I lose my cooperative identity. And I mean, I don't lose it totally, but I lose a part of it. So if I say to you, let's do this together, and you say, okay, and we start doing it, and then I don't do my part, and you say, hey, hey, what are you doing? And I say, okay, I'm not a member in good standing of the cooperative community anymore. You're going to say, what is this guy? Man, he's non-cooperative. So if you're non-cooperative, then you're not going to be in on the game. You're not going to be in on the stag hunt. Nobody's going to want you anymore. So if you don't cooperate, you can get away with it if you say, oh, I'm sorry, I have something really important to do. Okay. You say, okay, you give me permission to break it. I break it. Everything's fine. But if I just don't even acknowledge it and I just blow it off, then I lose part of my cooperative identity. It's kind of chipped away at it. So I need my cooperative standing in the group. And I want to say that it's important that I call this we over me self-regulation. So it's not reputation, at least not reputation only. Reputation is what they think of me. This is what we think of me because I'm with you. I agreed ahead of time we were going to apply these normative judgments to anybody, whether it was you or me, that didn't play their role right. They were going to get chastised, and whichever one of us it was, we were going to accept the chastising. So part of my cooperative identity is that I go along with the promises and the commitments I make. And if I don't, then I'm out of the game. It's not like one failure and I'm gone, but part of my cooperative identity, I lose part of my cooperative identity. Okay, so now let's flip over to collective agency. And this is again at around age 3 with the normative turn. And the sort of operational situation here in the children's studies is that they're not involved. So it's not a commitment on their part. They hear the rules of the game. So this child hears about how this game is played and sees how the game is played. And then this puppet is going to actually play the game the wrong way. So the child learns how to play the game from this guy over here. And then the puppet plays the game the wrong way. The game is called daxing. This one doesn't have subtitles, but you're going to hear.
That's daxing.
You're going to dax.
Daxing.
I dax. No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that at all. It doesn't go like that. It doesn't go like that. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that.
That's your name.
Here, you got to take this.
Yeah.
So now he's teaching him how to do it. Here, bitte. All right, do it like this. Okay. So this child is third party, not involved. This is not a joint commitment to me. What you're doing doesn't harm me at all. And this is a real mystery. Like you conform to group norms because you want to fit in and whatever. Maybe if you're a child, you don't want to be punished. But why do you enforce them? What do you care whether he follows the rules or not? Well, we call this a group-minded thing that has taken over. And objective, meaning this is not the way it's played. And I don't know what the Italian linguistics of it is, but in English, you can have this impersonal construction. That's it works like this, or that's not how it goes. Here's how you play. Here's how one plays. This impersonal construction is not about me. In English, it's ambiguous because the you is the plural you and the singular you is the same. But you don't play it like this, okay? One doesn't play it like this. All right. So that's the idea. And so now we're moving to this more objective. These are the norms. This is what I learned from the adult. Here's how the game is played. Here are the rules. You're not following the rules. Here's another one. So it's third-party intervention to enforce norms. And this is a real interesting point with the non-human animals is Franz himself has made a big deal about interventions, third-party interventions in things as being sort of normative. we can fight about that some other day. Here's another one of the same exact thing. You don't need to know what the rules of the game are, but the puppet is gonna not play the game the way it's supposed to be played. And I'm singling this one out because of the language.
Oh, die Hose.
Die Hose ist richtig.
The hose is richtig. The socks are right. Okay, richtig and falsch.
Ich werde nochmal
You can hear this
wachsen.
funny German word.
Der Schuh.
Der hat geschummelt.
Geschummelt. Hat geschummelt.
Der hat
It's the
geschummelt.
past tense of schummel. She's supposed to stay out of the way.
Dachsen.
Ja,
Darf ich dachsen?
der Elefant hat geschummelt.
Ist die viel dran, ne? Ich schreibe noch schnell was auf und ihr macht dabei weiter.
Weißt du, der Elefant, der hat geschummelt.
So now we've got the language of right, wrong, and cheat. And again, this child's not involved. He's sitting there like this, watching the puppet play. What does he care if the puppet plays by his own rules? Because it's not the way it's played. This is the way the game is played. So we think of that as group-minded or cultural. I do want to say, my German friends, some people say, okay, but this is Germans, okay? Germans are so norm following and conforming and all of that. Okay, so it's not just that. We actually looked at this in several small scale cultures in Africa and South America. And we did the same thing where we taught this kid, the kid saw how the game was played. And then another kid, the kid in the pink shirt knows how the game is. And the one in the green shirt is now playing it the wrong way. And the child intervenes and says, no, you can't play it like that. It doesn't work like that. So this is not just a Western educated kids phenomenon. It's that you play the game the way the rules are. That's all. And one other just quick thing here. This is two kids interacting, and but they learn the words from adults. But I just thought this was kind of cute too and gives you some good normative language also. Sorry. It's a game where you have to put, they each learn different rules. One of them you put the right color on the same color, and the other one you put the animal on the right animal. And again, this one doesn't have subtitles, but eagle is, in German, is hedgehog, and Ente is duck. So you're going to hear one of the kids talking about eagle to eagle, meaning you put the hedgehog on the hedgehog, and Ente says, nein, that's an Ente. Right. And they're arguing with one another. So they are arguing about how to play the game, but this is the kind of normative interaction between kids. Most of ours is eagle to eagle. Nine. Oh, if you know any German, dolphins, yeah, like this. That's a duck.
Hier ist Igel und das geht nicht. Hier ist Igel und Igel zu Igel und Igel zu Igel und ich sag jetzt meine. Nein. Das stimmt, das geht so.
Geht so. It goes like that. Geht so. It goes like that. And then this says, I'm going to get the man. So this is, so I'm showing you this because this raises the question of where are the force of these social norms coming from? In the individual interactions I was showing you, the force is because we agreed and it's not working and it's harming me when you leave. And if I'm leaving, I know it's going to harm you. What's the third party thing coming from? And Piaget and other people claimed that at the beginning it's coming from adults. So these are adult rules. All right. And the adults have force and the adults know what's the right way to do things, et cetera. And so it's coming from adults. And there's maybe a little bit of truth to that, but I think very early it transcends adults quite quickly. So we actually designed a couple of studies where the kids make up their own rules. And this is one where this is actually a pilot and this is chaos. And so don't take anything from this, but I'm going to say you that this is a game we made up. And these are three kids coming into play, and they don't know any rules. We told them, oh, there's some things in there. You can do whatever you want. And so you'll see some balls go down, the balls go down the tube and they come out at the end. Again, don't worry about the details. You can just sort of see it's a little bit chaotic. And see, she sends it going down the tubes. And now the other kid comes around and he wants to play that part. Okay, I'm not gonna bore you with the rest of it. What the point is that after they've done that, and they establish a kind of a game, chaotic game, but it's still a game. Now you set any one of those children up with a new child coming in, and they say, here's how you do it. Here, how you have to do it. You have to do this. You have to stand over there. So immediately, even though they made up the game, there are no adults involved, they make up the normative language that you have to do it like this because this is what the kids made up. This is what they agreed to. I love this study because there's almost nothing done on kids making up their own rules. Piaget had this wonderful thing about natural observations of kids playing games of marbles in Geneva and how the rules didn't come from adults, the kids had made up the rules. But the younger kids learned them from the older kids. So this is kids on the same level and they watch themselves making it up. But we did realize after we did this study that they could be thinking that the adults set this up in a way. There is a game. The adult who told us about it doesn't know the rules, but there must be rules because it looks artifactual, right? There's a tube there and all that. So then we gave them just a bunch of, there's a bunch of stuff in there. Do whatever you want, okay? And this is a piece of rope and a cardboard and a rock. And so they can do whatever they want. Just do whatever you want. We didn't say it's a game. We didn't say anything about it. We didn't say, I don't know how to play it. We said, you got to wait in here. We're going to do something later. Just wait in here. And we had 3 of them in there. And if you do anything you want to play with these. So we found out was that the majority of triads of kids made up rules. So they threw things in the box, for example. That was the most common game. They would put the box on the side and throw something in the box. And they would make up rules like, if you stood too close, no, you have to stand over here. And one of them even drew a line on the carpet like this with his finger back and forth. You have to stand over here before you throw it. So they make up these rules. Now, Susanna Hardecker came up with this brilliant idea was the problem is adult rules are different from child rules. So we had a yoke design where we ran all the children first and they made up rules. Then we took those rules and gave them to an adult experimenter and we wanted the adult experimenter to tell the child this is how it's played. So the actual rules are identical between the child condition and the adult condition, but the adult just said, here's how you play it. You stand here, you do this or whatever. And then we're looking and then a puppet comes in and plays it wrong or suggests to change the rules. And the findings are that children in both cases, whether they made up the rules themselves or whether the adult told them the rules, they both enforce them with normative language. And the 5-year-olds in some cases were a little bit more flexible to with their self-invented norms than if the adult gave it to them, implying a little bit of an influence of adult authority. But by 7, the kids didn't care whether they made it up themselves or whether the adult taught it to them. They were pretty much inflexible. You can't change the rules. This is the way it's played, full stop. Right. So, and did one other study to really teach this. I'm because of time, I'm going to skip over it. But the basic idea is that, again, that if it has agreement, then it gets enforced normatively. If there's no agreement, then not. And this is one that's a little bit more like a society where we had 4 kids, but they only play as duos. And the 4 kids made up the rules. And then when any 2 kids, any pair played together, and they all followed the rules and enforced them all normatively and so forth. So the group creates the norms to regulate individual cooperation, and there's normative enforcement there as well. So the we over me self-regulation in the group we have a cultural we, the collective in a commitment to the social norms. Now, social norms, oh, that's right. We started at 1:45, didn't we? Right, because y'all.
We started 5 minutes before, so you can take these 5 minutes.
Okay.
Don't worry. Don't be in a rush.
Okay, so
Another
10
15,
minutes,
15.
10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm in great shape. Okay. We're born into social norms, right? We don't create the social norms. They're there ahead of time, and you don't choose them. And but what I have argued is that when you're a child born into a group, you naturally want to be like everyone in the group and you want to fit in. And the way you can fit in is by conforming. If you're a teenager and you want to become a member of some group of teen kids or whatever, what's the first thing you do? You dress like them, you talk like them, you conform to the way they do things. And that's how you become a member of that group. So kids naturally want to conform. They naturally want to follow the rules and do things the way everybody else does them. And that's part of how you develop what I've called your cooperative identity. I'm one of you guys, okay? I'm one of you all. I know how to do this. I know, I follow the rules. I know how to do this. And so, again, we have the right to protest our compatriots' failings, and that's what those kids are doing. These other kids are not following the rules, and so we're enforcing them. And we entitle them to protest our failings. If we don't follow the rules, they're going to call us out on it, and we're going to say, "You're right. I'm sorry." Okay, we're not going to say, "I do whatever I want. I'm above the law here." Well, unless you're president of our country, most people do feel like, "Oh, oh no, I'm not above the law. I follow them." Okay, and again, if I refuse to cooperate, then my cooperative identity gets chipped away. I have a particular view of culture that everyone may not share. I believe a lot of what we think of as human culture was actually not. It developed before there was actually culture through this cooperation. We first developed cooperation and a cooperative attitude and cooperative identity in the group, and culture kind of lays on top of that. It is a type of cooperation, and it presumes that we already have cooperative individuals. Again, I hate to be on politics, but one of the things that's so astounding in our country now is in America is that nobody realized how much following the law and following the rules depends on being a generally cooperative person. And when you get somebody who's not a cooperative person and who doesn't respect norms and who doesn't respect traditions, who doesn't respect anything, the law doesn't work very well. It's like it's a stopgap, but it's not built for people who don't care about fitting in or following the group or reputation or identity or anything. So in any case, if I refuse to cooperate, I lose part of my cooperative identity as part of, again, to repeat. And this is a quote that I've used in my 2016 book. Christine Kursgaard's wonderful book on the sources of normativity, where she gives if you're interested in norms and you've never read that book, you should, because it gives a history starting with the Greeks about the idea of normativity. And one of her key proposals, which is where I took the idea from about cooperative identity, is that she says an obligation always takes the form of a reaction against the threat of a loss of identity. She gave an example of what she calls practical identity. And so the idea in the culture, so remember when our cooperating kids, they have the role to play. So I'm going to do this while you do that, and we're collaborating or whatever. But in a culture, we have these larger roles, and we have roles. And so her example, I think it's not exactly her example, but I'm adapting it, is let's say you're a policeman. And part of becoming a policeman is you think, oh, okay, I'm playing my role in society. I'm playing a good role. I'm keeping the criminals out of the way, and I'm doing all of this. And I think of myself as a contributing cooperative member of society. And then one day, I'm hard up for money. My child needs an operation, whatever it is. And there's a drug guy dead on the floor with money coming out of his pocket. And I take some of the money and I put it into my pocket, right? Because I really need the money, and it's just going to go back to the city anyway. Who cares? And I'm making all these, but I'm feeling a little bit like I'm not the policeman. I'm not this ideal policeman that I thought myself to be. And then if I keep going down that route and I keep finding ways to put money in my pocket, then I lose completely my identity as a policeman, as a cooperative member of this society, and I become interested in my own self-interest, and I'm not really playing that role in the society anymore. And so she calls that a practical identity. And I think the general thing is a general cooperative identity, that I'm playing a role in this society, and I'm contributing to the cooperative endeavor that is our society. And when I start to lose that, it's by not following the rules. So all of that was a long preamble to say my view of culture is that what culture ultimately, the unique part that culture adds, and I know some people don't like this, is conformity. All right, it's about we all do it like this, and we all accept this value, and we accept this way of doing things. All right. And so I'm already what I call in the book on evolution of natural history of human morality, there's a natural morality that is interdependence and cooperation. It's a joint commitments and normative protest. Those are all a natural morality that you don't need a culture. You don't need social norms for. These are norms, agreements, joint commitments between us. And at the level of culture, it's like, here's how we do things. We follow these rules. We do it this way. And if you want to be one of us, you have to do it like us. Okay, so to me, the culture is kind of laid on top, and that's where language is. Language is laid on top. So I have a lot of examples here of the normative protest being in language, but it's not essential. I could protest without the language. I can make a joint commitment without the language. The language facilitates. Language, I believe, evolved precisely to help coordinate and regulate cooperative activities. So it's its natural home is doing those things, to form the joint commitment, to call somebody out normatively and so forth. That's part of the language. So the overall socio-moral orientation, oversimplified, but nevertheless, I found helpful, is what nobody can agree exactly what morality is. All right, you see the philosophers disagree greatly, but I think everyone agrees that one thing it's not about being selfish. Morality is not it's not about being selfish. So here are 3 ways to not be selfish, put in a formulaic sort of thing. You over me is when sympathy, helping, compassion. I sacrifice for you. I actually think it's quite common in the animal kingdom, in mammals, with mothers and their children. The mother sacrifices for the children. She's got the oxytocin flowing. You over me is a sacrifice, and sympathy, helping, compassion. And you equals me is equity and fairness. All the way Aristotle talks about all forms of justice and fairness having something about equal, whether it's based on merit or need or just equality. And we over me is obligation and normativity. That is, it's not they over me, that's reputation. It is this community of which I am a member, or this collaborating group to which I'm jointly committed. We agreed to do things this way. And therefore, since I agreed to them, it's the pressure of we, the group that I'm a member of, putting pressure on me as an individual. And again, it's similar to what they putting pressure on me, but it's not the same. The we makes it legitimate. And actually, one of the places I use as support for this idea in the book is Rousseau. And Rousseau says the consent of the governed. Once you have the consent of the governed, we all agree this is the government we want. Then if the government comes down on me, I may not like it, but I think of it as legitimate. I don't like it, but I realize, okay, right, this is the law. I should have done this, whatever. Right? So the we over me is and I think you can't get guilt without a notion of we over me. It has to be legitimate. Okay, I stole the iPhone. I really like my new stolen iPhone. I'm having a lot of fun with it, but I knew I shouldn't have done it. Okay, so the guilt is something bigger than myself. So to wrap it up, the collaborative we and the in-group we, meaning on the group level, are the natural homes of normative obligation. And I should say here that, again, one of the things I get quite a lot is people saying, you say that everybody's so collaborative and there's all this normative enforcement. Look at the world today. Don't you read the newspaper? Come on. But most of it is us versus them. Most of it is somehow it's we versus not we. So the natural home is our in-group we. The mafia have quite of a loyalty and friendliness to one another within the group. The armies are all collaborative and whatever. As they're killing each other, they're all collaborative within their groups. So the natural home, I'm not saying it can't extend out, the natural home, and a lot of us in the more academic and educated society, say, why can't, my moral community is the world. It's all of humanity. But I would say if you took a poll, that is not the attitude of the majority of human beings on planet Earth. My moral community is my in-group. And these guys over there, if you think all the way back to hunter-gatherer days, I just think in our group, we all look alike. We use the same language. We eat the same food. We dress the same way. Those guys on the other side of the river, it's not that I hate them. It's just that You know, they dress funny, they talk funny, they eat disgusting things. You know, it's they're just not us. That's all. And I don't know what to do with them. So the natural home of the cooperative we and the normative obligation is my group. However I conceive of it. And again, I might conceive my group as all of humanity. That's great. And the two components are we over me self-regulation. And I didn't stress it here, but also equal respect. I believe that one of the things that comes out of collaboration is that, again, he depends on me like I depend on him. He could play my role, I could play his role. You get this notion of equality when you collaborate, that we're both needed to make this work. And the normative protest is again about you're not treating me as an equal. You're saying you can just blow this off. You can just blow me off and not quit cooperating. No, you can't do that. I resent that. Right. And then if I blow you off, I say, oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. So the normative bond is based on an equal respect among partners. Again, it's tied to your cooperative identity that if I want to, I can blow it off. I can blow it all off anytime I want, but I'm going to have to go off on my own and live a solitary life if I don't want to cooperate with anybody else. So, yeah, so I think that's my story. Thank you.